Part 1. The Valkyrie space station floated in the darkness near a dying star. Commander Zilth worked at her console, checking the readings from the star's core. She was a scientist, not a soldier. Her thin insect-like body and delicate hands were made for research, not fighting. The station was small, with only 15 researchers living aboard. They had been studying the star for 3 months, gathering data that would help other species understand how stars died. Everything changed when the ships appeared. Zilth saw them on her scanner first. 42 vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel and surrounded the station. Her heart sank when she recognized the design. Kravex ships. The reptilian raiders were famous across the galaxy for attacking weak targets and taking whatever they wanted. They killed anyone who resisted. Zilth's hands shook as she activated the emergency communication system. She sent out a distress signal on all frequencies, begging for help. Within minutes, responses came back. The Torvan Alliance said they were too far away to help. The Merkian Collective said their laws prevented them from interfering. The Heptari Union offered thoughts and prayers, but no ships. One by one, every major civilization in the galaxy told Zilth the same thing. They were sorry, but they could not help. Then a new message appeared on her screen. The signal came from a species Zilth had only heard rumors about: humans, the Deathworlders from a planet called Earth. She had heard stories about them at scientific conferences. Other researchers spoke in whispers about the terrifying species that had recently joined the galactic community. They came from a world so dangerous that simply surviving there seemed impossible. Earth had predators that could smell blood from miles away. It had weather patterns that could flatten entire forests. Its gravity was so strong that most species could barely walk on its surface. The humans who evolved there were built to survive constant danger. They healed faster than normal species. They could run for hours without stopping. They could eat foods that were toxic to other beings. Their bodies were designed for violence. Zilth read the message with growing fear. "This is Captain Greg Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. The battleship Liberty and her support fleet are 12 hours away. Hold on. We are coming to help you." She wanted to cancel the signal. She wanted to tell the humans to stay away. Every species in the galaxy feared humans. They were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too dangerous. But it was too late. The Kravex were already cutting through the station's outer hull. Zilth could hear the metal tearing as boarding pods attached to the station's sides. Warlord Kresh appeared on her view screen. The massive reptilian commander smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Valkyrie scientists," he said in a mocking tone. "Your research belongs to us now. Surrender and we might let some of you live. Resist and we will kill everyone." Zilth's mind raced. Should she tell him about the humans coming? Would he leave if he knew Deathworlders were on their way? She decided to stay quiet. Maybe the Kravex would take what they wanted and leave before the humans arrived. Maybe nobody would have to fight. The Kravex soldiers came through the airlock wearing heavy armor. They were 8 feet tall and covered in thick scales. Each one carried weapons designed to kill. They moved through the station quickly, gathering the Valkyrie researchers into the main lab. Zilth counted her team. Everyone was still alive, but they were terrified. One of the Kravex soldiers grabbed Zilth by her thin arm and pulled her toward Warlord Kresh. The pain made her cry out. Kresh looked down at her with cold eyes. "You sent a distress signal," he said. "Who answered?" Zilth hesitated. Should she tell him? Would it make things better or worse? Before she could decide, one of Kresh's officers spoke up. "Warlord, we intercepted a response. It came from humans." Kresh's expression changed. For a moment, Zilth saw something that looked like concern cross his face. Then he laughed. "Humans? The primitives who just learned to travel faster than light? They are nothing." "How many ships did they send?" The officer checked his datapad. 3 ships, Warlord. 1 battleship and 2 support vessels." Kresh laughed harder. 3 ships against our 42? Let them come. We will crush them and then finish with these insects. He turned to Zilth. "Your saviors will die trying to rescue you. Then you will watch as we destroy this station and everything in it." The hours passed slowly. The Kravex soldiers kept the researchers in the lab while their team stripped the station of valuable equipment. Zilth watched the clock, counting down to when the humans would arrive. Part of her hoped they would see the Kravex fleet and turn around. No sane species would fight against such bad odds. 3 ships could not defeat 42. It was simple mathematics. But Zilth had heard other stories about humans. Stories that seemed impossible. They said humans did not understand the concept of impossible. They said humans would charge into battles they could not win and somehow find a way to survive. They said humans had a phrase for fighting against overwhelming odds. They called it a normal day. With 1 hour remaining, Zilth saw something on the station's external sensors. 3 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The lead ship was enormous, bigger than any Kravex vessel, the Liberty. Even from this distance, Zilth could see it was designed differently than normal ships. It looked aggressive, like it wanted to fight. The other 2 ships were smaller, but moved with the same aggressive posture. Warlord Kresh stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the human ships approach. He seemed confident, almost amused. "Open a channel to the human captain," he ordered. "Let me speak with these foolish Deathworlders." The view screen activated, showing a human male sitting in a command chair. Captain Greg Morrison looked calm, like he was not worried at all. His face showed signs of age, with lines around his eyes and gray hair at his temples. He wore a simple uniform with no excessive decorations. He looked more like a teacher than a warrior. "I am Warlord Kresh of the Kravex Empire," the reptilian commander said. "You are interfering with our operation. Leave now or be destroyed." Morrison leaned forward slightly. His voice was quiet but firm. "You have 5 minutes to withdraw from that station and leave this system. This is your only warning." Kresh's laughter echoed across both bridges. "Or what, human? You have 3 ships. I have 42. Your species may come from a harsh world, but you clearly never learned to count. Turn around and leave. This is my final offer of mercy." Morrison looked at someone off-screen and nodded. Then he turned back to Kresh. "You have 42 ships. We have 3. That seems like fair odds. Fire." The transmission ended. Zilth watched her sensors as the human battleship's weapons came online. She saw energy readings that made no sense. No ship should be able to generate that much power. Then the Liberty fired, and Zilth understood why the galaxy feared humans. The first shots from the Liberty tore through space faster than Zilth's sensors could track. 3 Kravex cruisers exploded before their shields could activate. The weapons were not energy beams like normal ships used. They were solid metal projectiles moving at incredible speed. The humans had looked at standard galactic weapons and decided that throwing pieces of metal very fast was better. Captain Greg Morrison sat in his command chair and watched the tactical display. He had been a soldier for 30 years before humanity discovered faster-than-light travel. He had fought in wars on Earth, in battles where victory meant staying alive one more day. He knew how to read an enemy, how to find weaknesses, how to turn bad situations into winning ones. The Kravex thought numbers would win this fight. They were wrong. "Lieutenant Kate Stevens, status report," Morrison said calmly. Kate looked up from her weapons console. She was 28 years old with red hair tied back in a tight bun. She had graduated top of her class at the Weapons Academy. Her fingers moved across the controls like she was playing a musical instrument. "Sir, I count 12 Kravex heavy cruisers and 30 smaller ships. Enemy shields are coming online now. They are forming a defensive pattern around the station." Morrison nodded. "Commander Lisa Harper, what are we looking at for boarding parties on the station?" Lisa stood next to his chair, studying a datapad. She was 34 with short black hair and the build of someone who exercised every day. Before joining the fleet, she had been a Marine, fighting in ground combat on 3 different planets. "I count approximately 60 Kravex soldiers on the station, sir. They have the researchers gathered in the main lab. No casualties yet among the Velkari." "Good," Morrison said. "Let us keep it that way. Danny, bring us around to attack position. Kate, target their communication ships first. I want to disrupt their coordination." Lieutenant Danny Cole grinned as his hands moved across the pilot controls. He was 25 and had dreamed of flying spaceships since he was a child. The Liberty responded to his commands like it was part of his body. The massive battleship spun and dove in ways that should have been impossible for something so large. "Positioning now, Captain. These guys move like they are stuck in mud." The Kravex fleet tried to surround the human ships. It was a standard tactic that worked against most enemies. But humans were not most enemies. The Liberty accelerated straight into the center of the Kravex formation, its point defense system shooting down incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. The 2 support ships, the Valor and the Justice, swept around the flanks like hunting wolves. Warlord Kresh watched his tactical display with growing concern. His ships were firing everything they had at the humans, but their weapons seemed to do almost nothing. The human shields absorbed most hits and their armor stopped the rest. Meanwhile, every shot from the human ships destroyed something. Railgun rounds punched through Kravex hulls like they were made of paper. Missile volleys overwhelmed enemy point defenses through sheer volume. "What kind of monsters are these?" Kresh whispered. His officers looked at him with fear in their eyes. The Kravex Empire had conquered dozens of species. They had never lost a battle this badly, this quickly. On the Liberty's bridge, Kate called out new targets. "Sir, the enemy flagship is moving to protect the station. I think they want to use the Valkyrie as shields." Morrison's jaw tightened. That was a coward's move, hiding behind innocent people. "Negative. We do not let them use hostages. Danny, position us between the flagship and the station. Lisa, prepare boarding teams. We are going to have to do this the hard way." Lisa smiled. The hard way meant close combat. Marines against enemy soldiers. She was good at close combat. All humans were. They had evolved on a planet where every day was a fight for survival. Their reflexes were faster than most species. Their endurance was higher. Their willingness to take risks was legendary. "Yes, sir. Teams 1 through 4 are ready to deploy." The Liberty moved between the Kravex flagship and the station, taking fire from both sides. The ship shook as enemy weapons hit the shields. Inside the station, Zilth felt the vibrations through the floor. She watched her sensors and could not believe what she was seeing. The human ship was deliberately putting itself in danger to protect the station. No species did that. Most would cut their losses and leave. Warlord Kresh saw his opportunity. With the Liberty positioned to protect the station, it could not maneuver as freely. He ordered all ships to concentrate fire on the human battleship. Hundreds of missiles launched simultaneously. Energy beams from a dozen ships converged on one target. It should have been enough to destroy any ship. The Liberty's defensive systems came alive. Point defense lasers tracked and destroyed incoming missiles with mechanical precision. The ship's electronic warfare suite jammed targeting systems and created false sensor readings. Countermeasures deployed, creating clouds of reflective particles that scattered energy beams. The humans had spent thousands of years fighting each other on Earth, developing weapons and defenses for every possible situation. They had brought all that knowledge to space. Kate's hands never stopped moving. She fired the railguns in a precise pattern, targeting enemy weapon systems instead of trying to destroy entire ships. Each shot disabled guns, missile launchers, and shield generators. Within minutes, half the Kravex fleet was combat ineffective. "Sir, enemy fire is decreasing." "Their accuracy is dropping as well. I think we are jamming their targeting computers." Morrison allowed himself a small smile. "Good work. Now let us talk about ending this." Open a channel to Warlord Kresh. The reptilian commander appeared on screen again. This time he did not look amused. His scales had turned a darker shade, which Zilth knew meant he was stressed. "What do you want, human?" "I want you to surrender," Morrison said simply. "You have lost this fight. Your fleet is crippled. My Marines are ready to board your ships. You can withdraw now with your surviving vessels, or you can stay and watch them all get destroyed. Your choice." Kresh's pride fought with his survival instinct. He was a warrior, bred for conquest. Surrendering to an inferior species went against everything he believed. But he was also a realist. He had started this battle with 42 ships. Now he had maybe 20 that could still fight, and even those were damaged. The humans had 3 ships, all barely scratched. "You are bluffing," he said, but his voice lacked confidence. Morrison gestured to Kate. "Show him." Kate targeted one of the larger Kravex cruisers that was trying to retreat. She fired a single railgun round. The projectile hit the ship's engine section and punched straight through, emerging from the other side. The cruiser went dark, dead in space. "That was a warning shot," Morrison said. "The next one destroys your flagship. You have 60 seconds to decide." On the Valkyrie station, Zilth watched the confrontation on her monitor. She had seen Warlord Kresh before, had heard stories about his cruelty and pride. She never thought she would see him back down from a fight. But as she watched his expression change from anger to resignation, she realized something important. Humans were not just good at fighting. They were good at knowing when to fight and when to frighten their enemy into giving up. Kresh lowered his head slightly. It was not a formal surrender, but it was close. "We will withdraw. But know this, human. The Kravex Empire will remember this insult. We will meet again." Morrison's expression did not change. "I hope we do not. But if we do, remember how this ended. Remember that you had 42 ships and we had 3. Remember that you lost. Now get your soldiers off that station and leave this system. The transmission ended. Zilth watched as the Kravex boarding parties retreated from the station, moving quickly back to their ships. Within 20 minutes, the entire Kravex fleet was gone, jumping to faster than light speed and disappearing into the darkness. The battle was over. The humans had won without losing a single ship. Morrison stood from his command chair and stretched. His back hurt from sitting in one position for too long. Getting old was annoying even for a human. Lisa, take a team over to the station. Make sure the Velkari are all right. Kate, Danny, good work. Run diagnostics and repair any damage. We stay here until the station is secure. Lisa gathered her Marines and prepared to board the Velkari station. As she checked her equipment, she thought about the battle. It had been easy, almost too easy. The Kravex fought like most galactic species, following predictable patterns and established tactics. They did not understand that humans had been fighting wars for their entire history. Every strategy the Kravex used, humans had already seen and countered thousands of years ago on Earth. The boarding shuttle flew across the gap between the Liberty and the station. Lisa looked out the window at the stars and thought about home. Earth was far away, but its lessons were always close. Never give up. Protect the innocent. Fight with everything you have. Simple rules that had kept humanity alive for hundreds of thousands of years. Rules that still worked, even in space. Commander Lisa Harper stepped through the airlock into the Velkari station with her rifle ready. Behind her, 20 Marines in powered armor followed in formation. They moved carefully, checking corners and doorways like they had been trained. The station was quiet now, but Lisa knew better than to assume it was safe. Kravex soldiers were known for leaving traps behind. The first Velkari researcher they found was a young male named Tyvix. He was hiding in a storage closet, his thin body shaking with fear. When he saw the humans, he tried to make himself smaller. Lisa knelt down slowly, making sure her movements were not threatening. She removed her helmet so he could see her face. "Hey there," she said gently. "My name is Lisa. We are here to help."
"Can you take us to the other researchers?"
Tyvix stared at her with his large compound eyes. He had heard stories about humans, about their violence and aggression. But this human woman had a kind face and a soft voice. She looked more like a protector than a predator. Slowly, he nodded and led them toward the main lab. The lab was a mess. Equipment was broken, files were scattered everywhere, and the Velkari researchers were huddled together in a corner. Commander Zilth stood protectively in front of her team, trying to look brave despite her obvious fear. When the humans entered, she raised her thin arms in what she hoped was a peaceful gesture. Lisa holstered her rifle and approached slowly. "Commander Zilth, I am Commander Lisa Harper from the Earth Defense Fleet. The Kravex are gone. You are safe now." Zilth's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of confusion among her people. "Gone, but they had so many ships. How did you defeat them?" Lisa smiled. "We are very good at convincing people to leave. Is anyone hurt?" One of Zilth's researchers, an older female named Sella, stepped forward. She pointed to her arm, which was bent at an odd angle. "The Kravex soldier was rough when he grabbed me. I think it is broken." A Marine named Private Jake Miller moved forward. He was the team medic, trained in treating injuries for dozens of different species. He had studied Velkari physiology before the mission, knowing they might need help. He examined Sella's arm carefully, his large human hands surprisingly gentle. "Yes, it is broken, but I can set it and give you something for the pain. You will be okay." As Jake worked, Zilth watched the humans move through the station. They were efficient and professional, checking every room and making sure there were no hidden dangers. Some of them started repairing damaged equipment without being asked. Others organized the scattered research files. They worked like they had done this many times before. Captain Morrison contacted Lisa through her communicator. "Status report, Commander. Station is secure, sir. 15 Velkari, all alive. 1 injury, non-critical. No signs of Kravex booby traps. The station took some structural damage, but nothing we cannot fix. Good work. I am sending over an engineering team. Stay there until they arrive." Lisa acknowledged and turned back to Zilth. "Our engineers are coming to help repair your station. Is there anything specific you need?" Zilth was still processing everything that had happened. In less than an hour, her situation had gone from hopeless to safe. The entire galaxy had ignored her distress call, but the humans had come immediately. They had fought against impossible odds and won. Now they were helping repair the damage like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I do not understand," she said quietly. "Why did you come? Your species barely knows us. We have no alliance, no trade agreements, nothing that would require you to risk your lives for us." Lisa pulled up a chair and sat down so she was at eye level with the smaller alien. "On Earth we have a saying. It goes, good people help other good people. That is all the reason we need. You sent out a distress call," we answered. "It is that simple." "But you could have died," Zilth insisted. "The Kravex had so many more ships. The mathematics said you would lose," Lisa laughed softly. "Mathematics does not know everything. We had better ships, better training, and better motivation. The Kravex were here to steal and hurt people. We were here to protect innocent researchers. That makes a difference." The engineering team arrived an hour later. Chief Engineer Pete Johnson led a group of 10 specialists who immediately began assessing the damage. Pete was 42 years old with graying hair and oil stains on his uniform. He had been fixing things his entire life, from cars on Earth to starships in space. He walked around the station with a data pad, making notes and occasionally shaking his head at the Kravex's sloppy work. "These guys really made a mess," he said to Zilth. "But it is nothing we cannot fix. Give us about 6 hours and you will be good as new. Maybe better. Some of your systems are pretty old. We might upgrade them while we are here." Zilth followed Pete as he worked. She watched as human engineers crawled into access tunnels that were barely large enough for their bodies. They worked in areas where the gravity compensators had failed, their muscles straining against the pull. They repaired wiring that sparked dangerously, never showing fear. On Earth, she learned, people had jobs that were dangerous. They built tall structures and went into deep caves and worked with electricity every day. Danger was normal for humans. Private Jake Miller finished treating Sella and moved on to check the other researchers. Most were suffering from shock and minor injuries. He treated each one carefully, explaining what he was doing in simple terms. He had a gentle way about him that put the nervous Velkari at ease. Between patients, he told them stories about Earth, about cities with millions of people and forests that stretched for hundreds of miles. The Velkari listened with fascination. Earth sounded like a nightmare world, but Jake described it with love. "You actually have weather that can destroy buildings?" one young Velkari asked in disbelief. Jake nodded. "Oh yeah. Hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, floods. Nature is always trying to kill us, but we just build better buildings and keep going." You learn to adapt. On the Liberty, Captain Morrison reviewed the battle data with Kate and Danny. The fight had gone well, but he wanted to understand what the Kravex had done wrong so they could prepare for future encounters. Kate pulled up tactical displays showing the enemy fleet's movements. "They made several critical mistakes," Kate explained. "First, they underestimated us because we only had 3 ships. Second, they used standard formation tactics that we have studied and countered. Third, they did not adapt when their initial strategies failed. They just kept doing the same things and expecting different results." Danny added his perspective. "Their pilots were not bad, but they flew like they were following a manual. Everything by the book, nothing creative. When I started doing unexpected maneuvers, their targeting systems could not keep up. I do not think they train for opponents who think outside normal patterns." Morrison considered this. The galactic community had been at peace for a long time. Their military forces had become predictable, following established protocols and traditional tactics. Humans brought something different. Thousands of years of constant warfare had taught them to innovate, to try new approaches, to break rules when necessary. It gave them an advantage that pure technology could not match. "Write this up in a report," Morrison told them. "Fleet Command will want to study this engagement. Every battle teaches us something new." Back on the station, the repairs were progressing quickly. The human engineers worked with impressive speed and skill. They had brought spare parts and materials, anticipating what might be needed. Zilth noticed they never complained, never took breaks, never showed frustration when something proved difficult. They just kept working until the job was done. Chief Pete Johnson finished the last repair and ran a diagnostic check. All systems showed green. The station was operational again, and several systems were actually running better than before. He found Zilth in her lab, trying to organize her scattered research data. "All done, Commander. Your station is back online. I took the liberty of upgrading your communications array and adding some better security protocols. Next time someone attacks, you will have better warning." Zilth looked around at her repaired station. The damage was gone. Everything worked perfectly. I cannot repay you for this, she said quietly. Our government does not have much money. Our research grants are small. Pete waved his hand dismissively. We do not want payment. We just want to help. Although, he added with a grin, if you ever publish your research on stellar decay, I would love to read it. I am kind of a science nerd. Lisa gathered her Marines to return to the Liberty. Before leaving, she spoke with Zilth one more time. Captain Morrison will keep a ship in the area for a few days, just to make sure the Kravex do not come back. After that, you will have direct access to our communication network. If you ever need help again, just call. We will come. Zilth felt her eyes getting wet, a rare thing for her species. Why are you so kind to us? We are nothing to you, just insects studying a dying star. Lisa put a gentle hand on Zilth's thin shoulder. You are scientists seeking knowledge. That makes you valuable. That makes you worth protecting. On Earth, we have learned that the strongest survive not by crushing the weak, but by protecting them. Your work matters. You matter. Remember that as the Marines left the station, Zilth stood at a window and watched the human ships. The Liberty floated in space like a sleeping giant, powerful but peaceful now that the danger had passed. 3 days after the battle, Captain Morrison sat in his ready room reviewing reports when an urgent message came through. Lieutenant Kate Stevens appeared on his screen looking concerned. Sir, we have a situation. Long-range sensors are picking up another Kravex fleet, bigger than the last one. They are heading this way. Morrison set down his coffee and leaned forward. How many ships? At least 80, sir. Maybe more. It looks like they are bringing reinforcements to take revenge for their earlier defeat. Morrison thought for a moment. The Liberty and her 2 support ships could not fight 80 vessels, not even with their technological advantages. The numbers were simply too overwhelming. He could retreat, pull back to Earth space, and leave the Velkari to their fate. It would be the smart tactical choice, but it was not the right choice. Send a message to Earth Command, he said. Tell them we need backup. Then contact the Velkari station and inform Commander Zilth of the situation. She needs to know what is coming. An hour later, Morrison stood on the bridge with his senior officers. The mood was tense but focused. Everyone knew they were facing impossible odds, but nobody suggested leaving. That was not how humans operated. Kate worked at her console, preparing weapon systems. Danny checked the helm controls, ready to maneuver at a moment's notice. Lisa stood beside Morrison's chair, her jaw set with determination. Earth Command responded, Kate reported. Admiral Helen Carter is bringing the 2nd Fleet, but they are 5 days away. We need to hold out until they arrive. Morrison nodded slowly. 5 days against 80 ships. The mathematics were brutal. But humans had never been good at listening to mathematics when lives were on the line. We can do 5 days. We just need to be smart about it. On the Velkari station, Commander Zilth received Morrison's message with growing horror. The humans had saved her once, but now they were facing an even larger threat. She knew they should run, should save themselves. But she also knew they would not. That was the thing about humans. They did not abandon people they had promised to protect. She called an emergency meeting with her research team. The Kravex are coming back with a bigger fleet. The humans are going to try to defend us, but they cannot win against so many ships. We need to decide what to do. Sella, her arm still healing from the earlier attack, spoke up. We should tell the humans to leave. They have done enough for us. We will not let them die protecting our small station. Others nodded in agreement, but Zilth shook her head. They will not leave. I have studied humans since they arrived. They do not run from fights, especially when they are protecting others. It goes against their basic nature. Tyvix, the young researcher, looked thoughtful. Then we should help them. We are scientists. Maybe we can find a way to even the odds. The idea seemed impossible at first. What could a group of researchers do against a military fleet? But as they talked, a plan began to form. The dying star they were studying was unstable. Its corona produced massive energy bursts at irregular intervals. These bursts were dangerous to any ship that got too close. Maybe, just maybe, they could use that to their advantage. Zilth contacted Morrison and explained her idea. Captain, our research shows that the star produces solar flares every few hours. If we could predict when they will happen, we could position your ship so the flares are between you and the Kravex fleet. The radiation would interfere with their sensors and weapons. Morrison listened carefully. It was risky, but risk was something humans understood well. How accurate are your predictions? About 70% accurate, Zilth admitted. The star is unpredictable, but it is better than fighting in open space with no advantages. 70% is good enough, Morrison said with a slight smile. Send me the data. We will work with what we have. The Kravex fleet arrived 2 days later. Warlord Kresh was not among them. He had been replaced by Supreme Commander Varak, a larger and more aggressive leader. Varak had been sent specifically to destroy the humans and restore Kravex honor. He looked at the 3 human ships and laughed at their commanders. Foolish Deathworlders, Varak announced over the communication channel. You humiliated Warlord Kresh, but I will not be so easy to defeat. You are surrounded and outnumbered. Surrender now, and I will make your deaths quick. Morrison appeared on Varak's screen looking calm and relaxed. Supreme Commander, I need to inform you that you are entering a hazardous area. The star here is unstable and produces dangerous radiation bursts. For your own safety, I suggest you withdraw. Varak's laughter echoed across the channel. You think you can frighten me with stories about a dying star? I think you are stalling, waiting for reinforcements that will not arrive in time. Attack formation. Destroy those ships. The Kravex fleet moved forward in a massive wave. 80 ships against 3. The galaxy's established military doctrine said this fight would last minutes at most. But humans had written their own doctrine thousands of years ago on a planet that taught them survival meant thinking differently than everyone else. Morrison watched the tactical display as the enemy fleet approached. He was waiting for something, watching for the right moment. Commander Zilth sent constant updates from the station, monitoring the dying star's activity. The star was building toward a major flare. In approximately 3 minutes, it would release a massive burst of radiation. Danny, Morrison said calmly, position us exactly where I marked on the tactical display. Kate, prepare all weapons but do not fire yet. Lisa, get your Marines ready for possible boarding actions. The Liberty and her support ships moved into position near the star, closer than any sane captain would normally go. The Kravex fleet followed, eager to close the distance and overwhelm the humans with firepower. Varak watched with satisfaction as the gap between the fleets shrank. Soon it would be over. Commander Zilth counted down the seconds to the predicted solar flare. Her calculations showed it would be a big one, possibly the largest she had recorded. Captain Morrison, 30 seconds to flare. Recommend you activate all radiation shielding. Morrison relayed the command. The human ship's shields reconfigured, prioritizing radiation protection over kinetic defense. It was a calculated risk. If Zilth's prediction was wrong, they would be vulnerable to enemy fire. If she was right, the Kravex were about to have a very bad day. The star exploded with light and energy. A massive solar flare erupted from its surface, sending a wave of radiation across the system. The human ships, positioned carefully and with their shields configured for maximum radiation protection, weathered the storm. Their sensors went temporarily offline, but their ships remained operational. The Kravex fleet was not so lucky. The radiation wave hit them head-on. Their shields, designed to stop weapons rather than stellar radiation, provided minimal protection. Systems overloaded across dozens of ships. Sensors went blind. Weapons stopped working. Communications became garbled. Several ships suffered complete power failures. Morrison saw his moment. Now, Kate, fire everything. The Liberty's railguns opened up on the disabled Kravex ships. Without functioning shields or sensors, they were easy targets. The Valor and Justice joined in, their weapons finding targets with devastating accuracy. In less than 2 minutes, the humans destroyed or disabled 20 Kravex vessels. Supreme Commander Varak watched his fleet fall apart with growing panic. Retreat. Pull back from the star. Reform at a safe distance. The Kravex fleet scrambled to withdraw, but another solar flare was already building. Zilth's voice came through Morrison's communicator. Captain, another flare in 90 seconds. Smaller than the last one, but still significant. Morrison grinned. You heard the lady. Danny, keep us in close to the star. Kate, target any ship that tries to approach. Let us teach these guys why you do not mess with humans who have smart friends. For the next several hours, the battle continued in waves. The Kravex would try to attack. A solar flare would disrupt their formation, and the humans would strike while they were vulnerable. It was not a fair fight, but Morrison had never promised fair. He had promised to protect the Velkari station, and that was exactly what he was doing. By the end of the first day, the Kravex fleet had lost 30 ships. Varric was furious but also desperate. He had never faced an enemy like this, never dealt with opponents who used the environment as a weapon. He tried different tactics, different approaches, but the humans adapted to every change. They fought with a creativity and flexibility that seemed impossible. On Earth, Morrison knew, military academies taught thousands of years of battle history. Students studied ancient wars, modern conflicts, everything in between. They learned that victory did not always go to the biggest army or the strongest weapons. Victory went to whoever could think faster, adapt quicker, and use every advantage available. That was the real human superpower. Not their technology or their physical abilities, but their refusal to fight the way everyone expected. On the third day of the battle, Varric made a desperate decision. He would sacrifice half his remaining fleet as a distraction, while the other half rushed the station directly. It was a brutal plan that would cost many lives, but he was running out of options. His commanders protested, but he overruled them. Kravek's honor demanded victory, no matter the cost. Morrison saw the enemy fleet split and immediately understood the strategy. Commander Zilth watched 30 Kravek ships approaching her station and knew she was out of time. The Liberty was too far away to intercept. The dying star could not help now. This was the end. She gathered her research team in the main lab and prepared to face whatever came next. At least they had tried. At least the humans had given them a chance. Then something appeared on her sensors that made her heart skip a beat. New ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Dozens of them. She pulled up the identification codes and felt relief wash over her like a wave. The second fleet had arrived early. Admiral Helen Carter stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Washington, and assessed the situation with the calm efficiency of someone who had commanded fleets for 20 years. She was 53 years old with gray hair cut military short and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. She had served under Morrison years ago and knew exactly how his mind worked. She could see what he had been doing, using the star as a weapon and holding off a much larger force through clever tactics and sheer determination. "Captain Morrison," she said over the communication channel, "looks like you started the party without us." Morrison's face on her screen showed obvious relief. "Admiral Carter, perfect timing as always. 30 Kravek ships are heading for the Velkari station. We cannot reach them in time." "Already on it," Helen replied. "Third Squadron, intercept those ships before they reach the station. Second Squadron, engage the main Kravek's fleet. First Squadron with me, we are backing up the Liberty." The Earth Defense Fleet moved with precision and speed. 20 ships from Third Squadron positioned themselves between the Kravek's attackers and the station. The incoming enemy ships found themselves suddenly facing opponents with fresh shields and full weapons. The attack meant to overwhelm a defenseless research station turned into a desperate fight for survival. Supreme Commander, Varric watched the human reinforcements arrive and felt something he had not experienced in many years. Fear, not just concern for the battle, but genuine fear for his life. The humans had been defending with 3 ships. Now they had nearly 60. His fleet was damaged, disorganized, and demoralized. Half his ships were barely functional. His warriors, who had never known defeat before meeting humans, were losing their will to fight. "All ships retreat," Varric ordered, his voice hollow. "Jump to lightspeed immediately. We cannot win this." But the humans were not done teaching lessons. Admiral Carter had positioned her fleet carefully, blocking the Kravek's escape routes. "Supreme Commander Varric," she said over an open channel, "you are not leaving yet. You came here to destroy a peaceful research station and kill innocent scientists. You need to answer for that." Varric's reptilian face showed confusion. "What do you want, human?" "We are beaten. Let us go." "I want you to remember this," Helen said firmly. "I want you to go back to your empire and tell them what happened here. Tell them that humanity protects its friends. Tell them that attacking innocent people will bring the full might of Earth down on their heads. Tell them to leave our sector of space alone. Can you remember that?" Varric nodded slowly. He would remember. Every Kravex who survived this battle would remember. "We will not return to this system. You have our word." "Good," Helen said. "Now you can leave. But if I ever hear of Kravek ships attacking defenseless stations again, I will personally lead a fleet to your home world." "Understood?" The Kravek's fleet jumped to light speed as quickly as their damaged ships could manage. Within minutes, they were gone. The battle was over. The humans had won a complete victory against overwhelming odds. Captain Morrison's shoulders finally relaxed. He had been tense for 3 days, barely sleeping. constantly alert for the next attack. Now it was done. The Velkari were safe. His crew was alive. He allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before reaching for his communication controls. Admiral Carter, thank you for the assist. You arrived at exactly the right moment. Helen smiled on his screen. We pushed the engines hard to get here early. I had a feeling you might need help. Good work holding them off, Greg. That was some impressive tactical thinking with the solar flares. That was not all me, Morrison admitted. Commander Zilth and her team predicted the flares. Without their help, we would not have lasted 2 days. They turned their research station into a tactical asset. Helen's expression became more serious. Speaking of which, I should meet this Commander Zilth. She sounds like someone worth knowing. An hour later, a delegation from the Earth Defense Fleet arrived at the Velkari station. Admiral Carter, Captain Morrison, and several other senior officers met with Zilth and her research team in the main lab. The contrast between the two groups was striking. The humans were tall and powerfully built, their bodies shaped by heavy gravity and constant danger. The Velkari were delicate and thin, evolved for careful scientific work rather than physical challenges. Helen extended her hand to Zilth, a human gesture of friendship. Zilth carefully touched her thin fingers to Helen's palm, mimicking the gesture as best she could. Commander Zilth, on behalf of Earth and humanity, I want to thank you for your help during the battle. Your predictions about the solar flares were critical to our success. Zilth's mandibles clicked in embarrassment. We only did what we could. You are the ones who fought and risked your lives for us. We can never repay such a debt. There is no debt, Helen said gently. That is not how humans think about these things. You sent a distress call, we answered. That is what friends do for each other, and I hope we are friends now. Sella, her arm now fully healed thanks to human medicine, spoke up. Admiral, may I ask a question? Why did you come here? Your species has only been in space for a short time. You could have ignored our signal like everyone else. Why risk so much for strangers? Helen considered the question carefully. On Earth, we have a long history of conflict. For thousands of years, humans fought each other over territory, resources, and beliefs. We became very good at war because we had so much practice. But we also learned important lessons from all that fighting. We learned that the strongest do not survive by being cruel. They survive by protecting others, by building alliances, by making friends instead of enemies. She paused and looked around at the Velkari researchers. When we finally reached the stars and met other species, we had a choice. We could be conquerors like the Kraveks, taking what we wanted by force, or we could be protectors, using our abilities to help those who could not defend themselves. We chose to be protectors. Your distress call gave us a chance to prove that choice was right. Morrison added his thoughts. Also, we kind of like scientists. Earth has research stations all over our solar system. People studying everything from the sun to the outer planets. We know how important scientific work is. We were not about to let raiders destroy a research station if we could prevent it. Tivix, the young Velkari who had been so frightened of humans at first, stepped forward nervously. Sir, can I ask about Earth? The stories we hear make it sound terrifying. Is it really as dangerous as they say? Danny Cole, who had come over with the delegation, laughed. Oh, it is definitely dangerous. We have storms that can level cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, predators that can kill you in seconds. The ocean alone has enough ways to kill you that we had to invent new words for them all. But it is also beautiful, Kate Stevens added. She had been quiet until now, but the mention of Earth brought a smile to her face. We have forests that stretch for thousands of miles, mountains so tall you can see clouds below you when you stand on top, oceans so deep that we still have not explored all of them. Yes, it is dangerous, but it is also home. The danger makes us careful, makes us strong, makes us appreciate the good things more. Lisa Harper spoke up from the back of the room. The thing about Earth is that it taught us to solve problems. When faced with a challenge, we do not give up. We find a solution. The gravity is too strong. We build stronger bodies through evolution. The predators are too dangerous. We become better predators. The weather tries to kill us. We build better shelters and learn to predict the weather. Every problem has a solution if you are willing to work hard enough to find it. Zilth listened to the humans describe their home world with a mixture of horror and fascination. Earth sounded like a nightmare, a place where survival was a daily struggle. But these humans spoke of it with love and pride. They had been shaped by their harsh world, but instead of becoming cruel and bitter, they had become strong and protective. It was remarkable. Admiral Carter prepared to leave but had one more thing to say. Commander Zilth, Earth would like to establish a formal relationship with the Velkari people. We could set up regular patrols in this area to ensure your safety. We could also share some of our defensive technology so you can protect yourselves better. In exchange, we would love to learn from your scientific research. Earth has many scientists who would be thrilled to collaborate with you. Zilth felt overwhelmed by the offer. The humans wanted to protect them and learn from them. They wanted to be partners, not conquerors. It was more than she had hoped for. Admiral, we would be honored to work with humanity. Our government will need to approve the formal details, but I can speak for my team. We would love to share our research with Earth scientists.